Crystal Matthews. Crystal Matthews was caught on tape recently by James O'Keefe's group, Project Veritas, openly advocating for punishing people because they're the wrong skin color. Not exaggerating. Here's the tape.
No, I just think it's heavily white. I'm not a stranger to white people. I'm from a mostly white town. Yeah. And let me tell you one thing. You gotta know who you need to kill. Like, you gotta treat them like that's the only way to respect you.
Gotta hurt white people, or they won't respect you. She said that. That video is real. And yet somehow, no one seems to have noticed. Crystal Matthews is not on the front page of the New York Times this morning. There was no Justice Department investigation into her. That's weird, and everyone knows it's weird. But it's hardly the only shocking news story that's not being covered as a news story. Also missing from mainstream coverage is this video from Memphis of a young criminal promising to murder white people because of their skin color.
He already shot a white old man. I'm gonna shoot a white old lady. 5 grandkids in the car.
So that video was recorded just a day after the rampage, the murder rampage in the same city, Memphis, committed by a felon called Ezekiel Kelly. Ezekiel Kelly, like so many people who've committed murder recently, was let out of jail early. But no one in charge in the Democratic Party in Memphis seemed bothered by that. In fact, while he was killing people, a state representative in Tennessee, a Democrat called Antonio Parkinson, complained that the real problem was police might hurt Ezekiel Kelly. That was his main concern. Quote, "This is unbelievable. Ezekiel Kelly will probably be killed tonight at the hands of police. We are losing our children," he wrote. Really? That's your concern? So in all three of these stories we've just reminded you of, the bodega owner in New York, Crystal Matthews in South Carolina, the anti-white violence in Memphis, no one's noticing. Joe Biden's DOJ is standing back and doing nothing. In other words, they're allowing violent race hate to flourish in the United States. At the same time, they're telling you white supremacy is the biggest threat we face. This is terrifying on many levels, but above all, once again, is an attack, not on any specific ethnic group, but on a principle that protects all of us. And that's the principle of equal justice under the law. If you move to the United States from Latin America hoping to live under a fair justice system, this might bother you. And a lot of people are bothered. They didn't want to live in Honduras. That's why they moved here. And yet no one in Washington on either side, the Democrats who are making this possible, the Republicans who are still yammering on about criminal justice reform, seem to understand this. But you know who does understand it? Hispanic immigrants. They understand it very well. They see that it's not safe anywhere. Anywhere. Not just in the so-called bad neighborhoods, but in the so-called nice neighborhoods. The ones they live in or want to live in. This video is from Sunday. It was taken in a Chicago suburb called Lakeview. 3 men attack a woman on the sidewalk in front of her home. Watch this. You see that? That's not some scary neighborhood, a roll 'em up neighborhood. That's the neighborhood you live in or you want to live in. That's the neighborhood you picture when you think middle America. It's a nice leafy neighborhood. That could be your daughter attacked on the sidewalk in front of your house. That's happening. And it's going to get a lot worse if we don't pull back now, but they're not pulling back. The Democratic Party is doubling down. In January, police in the state of Illinois will be banned from removing trespassers from your property. The Democrat-controlled legislature just passed that law. Effectively, they have legalized home invasions. And there will likely be many more of those because starting next year, the Safety Act, just passed in Illinois, will let violent felons out of jail with no bail. Actual violent felons. People who committed crimes like second-degree murder and arson and kidnapping. What will happen then? Well, I think we know because it's been tried in other places, like New York City, where people are regularly shot, beaten, and robbed in public. People who could not be held behind bars because Democrats decide that was mean. They're worried about the criminals and not worried about you. And once again, to restate, if you siloed Hispanic voters into this one specific group whose concerns are totally different from everyone else's, you're missing the thread. That's not true. Hispanic voters, like every other voter of every race, they don't like crime and violence. but it's everywhere. These clips are all from the last month.
People sitting outside suddenly scramble to get out of the way as one man pops out of the sunroof and another out of the passenger window. They both start shooting.
An arrest is made in this brutal, cowardly sucker punch at the Kings Plaza Mall. Police say 21-year-old Jaheim David is facing assault charges. Surveillance video from the S40 MTA bus caught the incident on August 13th. It shows the suspect walking up to a 64-year-old victim who is sitting in that wheelchair. Cops say he grabbed $250 from the man.
Man got into a dispute with some others at that location. One of them hit him with a baseball bat, and another punched him in the face.
Surveillance video caught them as they went up to a 28-year-old victim and her friend. The two were walking on the sidewalk when the duo went up to them and tried to grab, according to detectives, the victim's necklace from her neck. Police say the trio rode onto the sidewalk and the passengers from the dirt bike jumped off and forcibly removed a Rolex watch from the victim's wrist. Now,
what country is this? It didn't used to be America. This is not organic. We didn't used to live like this. Liberals did this. They did this on purpose. They created more crime. It didn't just happen, and the numbers couldn't be clearer on that. Any Republican running for office this cycle, which is to say the month after next, who isn't running on this is an idiot. Because everyone knows it's happening, of all colors. Just today, local media in New York reported that a 21-year-old tourist was kidnapped and raped on a subway platform by a stranger. Are you shocked by that? You shouldn't be. That's what happens when you stop enforcing the law. That's what happens when you put the interests of criminals above those of citizens. Everyone can see what's happening, no matter what color they are. Democrats should not be surprised when they're punished for this. Blake Masters is one of the very few Republicans